I'm Army Master Sergeant Thomas Wheeler, and welcome to today's edition of the Spartan News. In today's edition, we are talking about the 101 critical days of summer. And with us to talk about that and answer some questions, please welcome Task Force Spartan Safety Officer, Major Alexander Prezioso. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity for speaking today.
Sir, please give us a brief explanation of what exactly the 101 critical days of summer is.
Sure. The 101 critical days of summer is basically an annual effort that helps us be able to reduce risk and prevent summertime fatalities from occurring. And historically, it runs between this month on Memorial Day and Labor Day in September.
I understand the 2020 summer safety message is out. Can you give us some of the highlights?
So our focus this summer is on COVID risk reduction, including heat injury prevention, driving safely, and prevention of our number one type of mishap in this task force, which is personal related injuries.
So let's talk about the obvious one, the heat. With the temperatures obviously increasing to the point where when you leave a building around here, you feel like you're walking into an oven. Give us some of the concerns and things the command wants soldiers to be aware of when it comes to the heat.
Well, as you know, we're entering the hottest and most dangerous time of the year with the extreme heat. So the usual theme everyone hears is always drink water, drink water. Yes, that's important, but that's just one part of what we need to be doing. We also need to remember to eat regularly, remind soldiers to limit our caffeine intake, especially when it comes to drinking the power drinks and the energy drinks. We want to ensure that proper rest cycle plans are implemented as well when they're working outdoors. But one of the most important things we can do is learn to recognize those early warning signs so we can prevent a serious injury or death from occurring. And they say that learned recognition can save a life.
Now let's talk about driving around here and the safety concerns related to that.
When it comes to driving, one of the concerns we have here are the amount of personnel and activities on our camps and operating bases. It's a lot of moving parts in confined areas. So two areas that we addressed are speeding and distractors when driving. Now when it comes to speeding, we need to not only follow all the posted signs, but we also need to remember to give ourselves plenty of time to travel. When it comes to the most common distractor of driving, we're talking about the use of mobile devices while driving. Not only is this prohibited, but all it takes is a second with your eyes off the road where you could end up potentially hitting someone or someone driving out in front of you.
Yeah, you see it all the time. What about pedestrians? Because we have folks that it's required that we stop and give them that 5 feet. What about pedestrians? What do you say to pedestrians who tend to, I mean, I've seen a lot of them walking just right out into the road, don't even bother looking either way.
Yeah.
And what do you say to them?
The pedestrians need to be paying attention at all times and assume that someone, especially driving by, isn't going to see them. So they need to not just walk in the middle of a crosswalk, but stop, look both ways on the road and make sure that it's safe to cross and wait for an actual driver to stop before they attempt to cross the crosswalk.
You could kind of say this is a two-way street. This is both the responsibility of both pedestrians plus drivers.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay. And then we spoke earlier, and you mentioned this is one of the biggest problems we have is personal injuries. Can you give us some of the details on that?
Sure. What we've seen is that a majority of our personal work and sports-related injuries occurred mainly due to complacency. Our soldiers are getting too relaxed and overconfident in their abilities. This is often where at work we find that they're not wearing the appropriate PPE, they're failing to follow proper procedures, or they're just not paying attention because they're relaxed. And with the sports-related injuries, the most common mistakes that we see are they're either horseplaying around, or they're just not, or they're being too aggressive or overconfident in their abilities when they're playing.
COVID-19. Looks like it's something we're going to be dealing with for some time to come. Talk to us about that.
Yes. Well, when it comes to COVID, we have to take the proper precautions that are being communicated to the field. But that's not what concerns me most about COVID. Eventually, the COVID mitigations are going to become less restricted. So this means that we're most likely going to have an increase in personal injuries and illnesses. And again, mainly due to complacency. So it's important for all soldiers, especially our first line leaders, to ensure that we don't become complacent even after the COVID goes away. We'll need to continue to be vigilant with washing our hands, using hand sanitizer, and continue routinely cleaning our living and working spaces.
And what do you say to the folks that are new here? Because, I mean, you see the people that have been here a while, so they've got the 6-foot rule down. They're wearing their masks in line. But recently I've seen some folks that I believe are probably new to the area who aren't quite up to speed on that. What do you say to those guys?
Well, I mean, if you don't know something, you need to ask. And you need to pay attention to, there's a lot of signs that are posted, instructions that are provided. And if you see people doing something and you're not sure, just ask. Especially talk to your chain of command and get them to find the information if you can't find it yourself.
Sir, we've all seen those web and social media sites that highlight the stupid things people do. There are even some devoted to military personnel and units. Do you have any examples of things that have happened here, or maybe some advice for soldiers and commanders on how not to find themselves highlighted on one of those sites and going viral?
Right, I've thought about this. I really didn't have a specific example that would really stand out for the audience, but I can say that my advice for not being that soldier or unit when it comes to safety would be, first, understand and follow what the standards are. 2, have the integrity, meaning do the right thing even when no one's looking. And 3, enforce the standards. If you see someone that isn't doing what they should be, regardless of the rank or position, every soldier has the right to speak up. And especially when it comes to the safety and welfare of anyone within this task force or United States Army. I think our command team said it best in our summer safety message that safety is everyone's business.
Well, that wraps up this edition of the Spartan News. Thank you again, sir, for taking the time to be with us today and for sharing this information. And a special thank you to you, our audience, for joining us. Have a great day, and I hope you can join us the next time. Remember to share our podcast with friends and coworkers. You can find us on iTunes and also online at dividshub.net. That's DVIDSHUB.net. Until next time.